everybody. I'm back again for another podcast with Clare sporting icons and to discuss a small bit about their life and times in sport and how much Clare GM into them and their involvement in sports from their young age right up to now. And with us here now we have the legendary Catherine O'Loughlin. Mary Keane has said that she was basically a footballer with a camogie problem, but I think most of us would disagree with that. Catherine, how are you feeling today?
Good, Michael, thank you. And yourself?
That's good. We won't talk about Bank of Ireland closing all the banks. I hope you're still in a job.
I'm in AIB, I'm lucky.
Oh, right, okay, you're fine then. Okay, listen, I suppose we'll just have a chat about your life and times from when you started out in Kilnamona. I suppose we'd have to mention a little bit about your Fergus Rovers life and the wonderful career that you were fortunate to have, I suppose, for such a long time with Clare Camogie, and I suppose a little bit about your own personal life. So, Catherine, I suppose we'll maybe just tell us a little bit about, I suppose, growing up in Kilnamona, and maybe, I suppose, the people that mattered most to you until you were probably, we say, a minor.
Yeah, so I'm currently living in Clare. I was born in Kilnamona in the same house where my dad and his sister Loretta were born in. My dad hurled all his life with Kilnamona and is the proud holder of 3 junior A championship medals. I suppose he's been one of the people who's been hugely supportive of my sporting career and has driven me the length and breadth of the country to support all the teams I have been involved with. I have a small bit of Galway blood in me as well. My mum is originally Kearns and from a family of 13 from Ardrahan, and she keeps telling me that there's lots of hurling and football pedigree from her side as well. I have 4 brothers, Michael, Joseph, Inagh and Tomas, and one sister, Geraldine. I'm a half twin to my brother Michael. All 6 of us played with Kilnamona. I played with the boys hurling team when I was younger, up as far as under 21. And I have 3 league and championship medals playing with my brothers and the team. My sister was also won its first Camogie championship title in 1999. So I suppose our house, when I was growing up, which was a typical country house, GA and particularly hurling was talked about every time we sat down at the table. I'm told my dad had hurleys in our hands before we could walk, and Mam brought us to all the matches. We've lots of green fields around the house, and I suppose it was there where we first hit a ball with Dad and Mam, and my love of hurling started. I attended then primary school in Kilnamona, and there my hurling fostered and grew under the watchful eye of our principal, Jim McMahon. Jim loved hurling and he'd pack us into his car for his school matches. I remember he'd bring us over to the blackboard to let us know who was going that day. Numbers were small at the time, so a few of the girls got to go to play with the boys as well. So he was a great GA man and really developed camogie and hurling for kids who were attending the primary school. I suppose a bit just about our community. So a very small community in Kilnamona, like we had church, a hall and a hurling pitch when I was growing up. Later on we had a shop, Kilnamona Stores, but that has since closed. But I suppose my main memories were of playing in the pitch beside the church, and we trained in various pitches around the parish. A lot of fundraising was done back in the 80s so that we could have our own pitch and dressing rooms in Kilnamona, and that was opened in 1984. And I remember at the time Michael Carr was on the fundraising committee, and he brought his 2 daughters, Patricia and Catherine, and myself, all around the county selling tickets at the time for that fundraiser. We had no camogie club in Kilnamona when I started out, so I actually played with Inagh first, or St. Flannan's as it was known back then. And then Lorraine Gannon set up the camogie club in Kilnamona in 1982, and I moved back then. So I suppose that's really what got me started, and it developed from there.
I suppose an interesting thing that you wouldn't see happening anymore, there'd nearly be a civil rights case where a girl would be playing with the boys so far up. It had were you able to handle the physicality of it, or was it skill? Or of course you had a couple of angry brothers that remind you, I suppose, that the pressure came on as well from that position.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose initially when I started out, maybe at the very underage, I was playing out the field, but then I moved into goal. So I suppose, I was well protected at all times by the full back line. But no, I never had any difficulties. I suppose when we were training, I never did the physicality work, because I would have done that through camogie and football. So or the physical work. And so most of my training was in goal, so sure, I absolutely loved it. I had Michael Griffin was taking shots at me every night at training, had an hour and 15 minutes of that. Sure, it was great, and it really developed my hurling as well, like, because you know, if you can get a good eye for the ball, it helps your outfield play as well. But I absolutely loved it, like, and I never got given out, even letting in an odd soft goal or anything like that. No, never given out, and I had great times and great memories playing with the boys.
And who were the full backs that you remember that looked after you, that kept out those forwards that wanted to score goals?
I remember Oliver Meskel anyway, definitely had a word with one or two. Richard Rowan, Flan Hagerty, Michael Hagerty, my brother Joe was back there as well. So yeah, but as I say, like, you know, they were all really, really good. Like, and I actually felt so part of the team. There was, you know, I never felt any different or anything like that. I just was so at home.
Yeah. I suppose then you went to school in Clare. You had, I think, some bit of success playing camogie inside in Clare. I think you won All-Ireland Junior, and then maybe if you could expand it with that, your evolving role that you got onto the county, we say the county senior panel eventually.
Yeah, so Mick Maher, a former Kilkenny man, and he won a county senior hurling championship with the Rogue in 1990. So he himself and Mairead Bergen were our main coaches when I went to the Clare. And I suppose I was really lucky at the time in that there was a great bunch of players, kind of a great bunch of us came in together in first year. So we had great battles with the likes of Shannon Comp, St Mary's Charleville, St Raphael's, Loughrea. And I suppose it was through the Clare really that I came to the attention of county management. It was just like from playing the likes of Shannon, you know, you got more exposure. So then I played under 16 for the county when I was 13, and actually the same year that I actually played minor, and we beat Cork in the Munster final that year. So I suppose that's really where I got my exposure. And then you know, the following year, I got called up to the county junior panel at that stage, and I suppose we were very fortunate. You know, in my first year with the county team at junior level that we actually won the All-Ireland in 1986. So I suppose things kind of steamrolled really quick for me when I was very young. And I suppose I was very lucky to be part of such good teams at that age.
Did you find that when you look back at it now, that you can reflect in your career, that you might have played too much too young? Because often that can be said, no, it didn't bother you one bit at all.
No, I'd never say that. I suppose when you're young, you're so hungry and so eager. Like, I don't remember anything outside of playing hurling and football at home, or, you know, I don't know, even when you'd have like matches in the evenings or training in the evenings, you'd still be working on your skills at home every day. So no, I absolutely loved it. And I suppose I was one of the lucky ones as well. I didn't have, like, I've had a few injuries, stitches, a few broken fingers, etc. But I never had any major injury, like, you know, you hear of knee injuries, etc., that take a year to come back from. So I was very lucky, I suppose, that I didn't have any of those. But I would say, you know, I'd be an advocate for all young kids to do as many sports as they can. They all balance out each other in the end. But you know, I'd be an advocate of doing as much as you can while you're young enough. And I suppose I was lucky enough to keep doing it for as long as I could as well.
And you had a magnificent long career with the county. You tasted, I suppose, as much success as you could have with the grades that they were playing. Maybe you can tell us a bit about those All-Ireland Junior. As I said, maybe to point you, I was talking to Mickey Murphy from Clooney, and he still gets emotional over a group of women that he had for 2 or 3 years. So maybe you can explain a bit about how your inter-county career went for you, and the highs, and maybe the highs and an odd low, if there was such a thing.
Yeah, so I suppose my inter-county career spanned 22 years altogether. It started off, as I say, very lucky. In 1986, we beat Kildare in the Junior All-Ireland. The trainers at the time were Trixie Toomey, Father McNamara, and Kitty McNicholas. They were Super Rovers, and actually they were involved in 93 and 95 as well. So in 93, we won the Intermediate All-Ireland against Dublin. And then in 1995, we won the Intermediate All-Ireland against Tipperary. So I suppose within a short time, in my first 10 years, we probably had huge success in 3 All-Ireland medals at the time. Then in 1999, as you mentioned there, we won the Intermediate All-Ireland against Antrim, and Mikey Murphy was our manager at the time. And I still remember training out in Ballyline, and I remember him bouncing around the pitch, showing us the different skills. You know, it was like he was mad to go back playing himself at the time as well. But on match day, like, he had a great head. He could see switches to be made very early on, and he had a great hurling brain. So He was instrumental in that when himself and Tricia Grady was with him at the time. And Mikey actually came back with Eugene McMahon, God rest him, in 2006, and brought us as far as the All-Ireland semi-final that year. We were unlucky, but I suppose then, for a number of years, when you played intermediate, you actually got a shot at senior first. So I remember one year Bernie Ryan from Clare was training us, and God, we were really so psyched up for it. And I'd say we had some great players at the time. And I remember going down to Cork at the time, and we didn't get beaten by much on the day, and Cork actually went on to win that All-Ireland. But I remember we were devastated after we had so much belief in ourselves that we were actually going to beat them on that particular day. Now, it didn't happen, but but we had great times and great memories, and I loved every single minute of training. Some people say they don't like the training. I loved the training, and obviously the matches came then after that.
I suppose you say yourself, every intermediate you won, you went to senior. What was the difference that you couldn't hold your senior ranks? Were you just short one or two players, or was it actually the rudeness of the competition? If you lost a match, were you automatically gone out of the championship? There was no league or group places.
Correct. That was exactly it. If you were beaten in your first match, you automatically went down to intermediate. So we just came up against Cork were very strong at the time, and then Tipperary came then after that. So, you could say a bit of unlucky. As I say, that day in Cork really stands out to me. It was the one time I 100% believed we were actually going to win, and it just didn't happen. So I think at the time we were strong enough. Sometimes you need a bounce of the ball to get the break, and if you get the breaks will keep coming, but it didn't happen for us. But I suppose we were lucky enough that we could continue in competition, and at least we had matches, and that brought younger players on then as well.
I presume you'd love to be playing now, where if you get up to the senior grade, you get to 3 or 4 games every year, and you might have, it doesn't mean you'd always qualify for the knockout stage, but if you had one bad day, you could go out the following week and I suppose make up for that poor day. Yeah,
that's it. And I think that's a better system as well. If we'd knock out, you could be out by June, out of the championship, and that doesn't do anything, I think, for the sport. I much prefer the open draw, get your few matches under your belt, and as I say, if you've one bad day, it doesn't matter. You can get the bounce the ball again another day, and then you have your quarterfinals, semi-finals, and finals. So it gives everyone, and really at the end of the day, what you want to be doing is playing matches, and that's how you promote the game, and that's how you get more people involved in it. The only thing that I would say as well, I suppose I was a dual player at the time, so it helped me probably as a dual player. If one team was knocked out earlier, you could concentrate on the other one. Which obviously you never did want to get knocked out, but
yes.
But nowadays, I suppose with the dual player, it is very hard for people to play both sports, because you could have 3 or 4 matches in football for the county, 3 or 4 matches for camogie at a minimum, and so it's very hard to do the crossover. So it's probably something that I would see probably won't be happening as much into the future. Is the dual player? You'll have to pick a sport and concentrate on it.
Yes, I suppose, and you were fortunate enough to win an All Star. I suppose that was a great honour for yourself and your family, and probably, I suppose, paid tribute to the years and years of your father and others driving you around to matches.
It was a lovely and individual honour, and I suppose something maybe that I look back on, and but at the end of the day, it was the team of events that it was the team that was most important for me, and I suppose that's where I have all my friends from, and that's what I look back on most, was the team effort. And I have such great friends from camogie and football, and you'll meet them and you'll talk to them, and it's like as if you were just playing yesterday. So individual awards are lovely, but it's really the team, and it's all the honours that we got with the team are the most important ones.
And then you decided to, as we mentioned at the start, Mary Keane caught you inside in Kilnamona and brought you over to play football. I suppose people would accept it, would know that you played football. They don't realise how long you played football for, and you had a lot of success with the team, with Fergus Rovers and county.
Yeah, we had great success. I suppose, again, I was lucky enough to join a team that was, a very, very good team at the time. Like Fergus Rovers, I suppose, was started up under Johnny and Christina Hayes, Johnny, God rest him, and Johnny Hill. They put huge effort. They also were involved in the county at the time, so there was a lot of crossover between Fergus Rovers players and the county at the time when I joined. We've 7 championships with Fergus Rovers, and we won the All Ireland sevens up in Dublin, and we have our All Ireland junior and maybe three senior Bs as well. So we had a huge amount of success, and there was a lot of players that crossed over onto both those panels. You had Mary Keane, Carmel Bohannon, Helen Murphy, Anya King, Myra Daly. There was huge crossover. So like when you were playing with the county, there were so many Fergus Rovers players there that it made it so easy to actually play both of them. But Fergus Rovers were very good to me from being a player from outside the parish to play with them, and they looked after me as well, for training wise and everything like that. They understood if I had camogie that's that I'd be at the camogie first, and there was never any bothers with that.
By the sound of talking to you, you would have loved to be a full-time professional player.
That wouldn't probably be too far wrong. I suppose it's trying to get the work-life balance as well. I would probably have loved to play it full-time, but I was very lucky. After school, I went to work with AIB in Dublin, and I suppose I was very lucky with the managers that I had there. They were very supportive of my sporting career, and I had no problems in getting time off to go down to, if there was matches on during the week or anything like that. So and as well as that, when I am working in the bank, it's a 9-to-5 job. So, well, more or less, but so you have time in the evening, so I could concentrate on the evenings on sport and at the weekends as well. And I suppose so a lot of it does evolve around your job as well. Like if you're working, say, as a nurse or whatever, like, and you're working evenings and nights, it's a lot harder to concentrate on your sport as well. So I suppose maybe that was one of the decisions that brought me towards the bank when I was picking out a career for myself.
And you've done well since then. Tell me, would you have loved to do what we say the Chorus Staunton's, Breed Stacks and all those, Lauren McGee? Would you have gone to Australia if that offer was on and you were 20 again or 21? Would you do that trip?
I've often thought about it, I suppose, when I read about the girls going out and watch them on television. With the bank, actually, I was lucky enough. I got the opportunity to go to America twice to play soccer. So I went to New York and Florida, and I went to Seattle and Portland. But interestingly enough, they were both for like 3.5 weeks of a trip. And while I loved it out there, I actually really missed home. So I'd say I'm a home bird. I don't know if I actually, I suppose, I don't know if I'd actually stay out that long to actually play the sport. While I loved it out there, I was really looking forward to coming home. And I suppose for the number of years that I was in Dublin, I remember one weekend I was going to stay up. It was my first weekend to stay up, and I was out on the Friday night, and somebody said, "Oh, we're going home tomorrow," and I was like, "Do you know what? I'll go with you." And I actually ended up going home with the Saturday. So I probably am a real home bird. So while I would love the professional aspect of it, I probably still would have stayed in my county to play.
I suppose now that you're married back in Court there, and you've been telling me before, you're basically a taxi driver now for you're traveling the whole of West Clare with the 3 lads.
Yeah, I married my husband Martin in 2006 back here in Clare, and I suppose I stopped playing after the arrival of my 3 boys. So Keane is 11, Shane is 9, and Owen is 6. So as you say, thankfully they love sport, and I am a taxi driver for them now. But I also help out, like coaching them and coaching the teams that they are involved with. So they play underage football with Clare where we're living, and then we travel over as far as Ballyea for hurling. So it's kind of expanded my career in one way, because I've never stopped being involved with camogie, hurling, football. So that's been a great help to me, and I love going out fucking around with them. So it's been a benefit to me as well that they're interested in it.
I suppose I have to ask you the very bold question. How come you sent them to Ballyea? Why didn't you keep driving up the road to tiny Kilnamona now? Did it ever come into your head? I know the journey would be insurmountable for you, but did it ever come into your head?
It did, of course, and I mentioned it at home first, but I suppose logistically wise, like Ballyea was our nearest club at the time that the boys were starting their hurling, and I suppose really it was the time involved, and the distance then to go the extra from Ballyea to Kilnamona or to Inagh. And I suppose as well as that, I'm looking up, my sister Jordan lives in Lizzie Casey, so if there's a clash of training or matches, she'll take the boys and she'll bring them down to Ballyea for me. Or I'm lucky enough that some of the boys' friends in Ballyea, their parents will drop them back to Jordan's house. So it just means if I can't get to Ballyea, I have another way of getting the kids there and getting them to their matches and training. So like I suppose as well, you know, Inagh Kilnamona at the time had huge numbers. So, you know, if it was like the older times where they were short of numbers, you know,
you might feel more indebted to go back, but now that they're comfortable with in their own existence, you know, you don't have to do it.
Yeah, and it's the time, and I suppose I have to think down the road as well. You know, when the boys are in secondary school and there's exams and everything like that coming up, and the extra, you know, the extra 20 minutes further from Ballea and make that a round trip as well. So logistically, you just had to work out and see what was best for you. And as well as that, like Clare have an affinity with Ballea as well. You know, you've Pierce Lillis and Damien Burke have been playing with them, and they're boyhood or childhood heroes of the boys as well. So no, they followed in their footsteps as well and went to Ballea.
I suppose in your long, I suppose, hurling career with, or camogie career with Kilnamona, was there any, I'll compartmentalize this, what was the best win that you had with, or the best success you feel that meant the most to you with Kilnamona?
Sure, I suppose it has to be the 1999, our first senior championship win. Like, we had tried so many times. When we started out in the club in 1982, as I say, I was founded by Lorraine Gannon back then. So we had to work all our way up from junior A to senior. But we had a few shots at trying to win. We had amalgamated with St. Joseph's at one stage trying to win, and we were beaten by Wolf Tones in a final. But to eventually get there, like, you know, with a small group of players, really, like, you know, we didn't have huge numbers, and to win a county final, it was like, you know, it was like all your dreams come true in one. I remember I was captain on the day, like, and I just couldn't believe it afterwards. And I think I was interviewed by Seamus Hayes afterwards, and he mentioned Munster Club, and I was like, Munster Club? Hadn't even dreamed of that. Like, it was like, that was so far off my mind. It was just really to try to get that. But we had an awful lot of talent as well, even though our numbers were short at the time. We had a lot of talent, like the likes of Anne Keane, Noelle Cummins, Catherine Carr, Tricia Maloney, Maria Holler, Maria Keane, Niamh Command, Edna Keane, just to mention a few. But the key thing at the time was, like, we won 4 championships all together. But at the time, Margaret Lafferty and Rita Clancy, they were also doing huge work with our underage players coming through. So Margaret was originally from Milltown and a great footballer and athlete. And she'd never played camogie until she came to Kilnamona, and she joined and took up the sport. But she's put so much work into the underage, into the club, both as a manager, coach, and admin work down through the years. And, you know, she really looked after the underage, and you know, while we won the championship in 1999, our under 14 won the All Ireland Féile Division 2 title in 2001, and they beat Ballinderry from Derry that year. It was on in Cork, hosted by Clodove. So Margaret and Rita Clancy and myself were involved with that team. And so yeah, the likes of, like, Siobhan Lafferty and Fiona Lafferty, who are superb players, given great, you know, they're Margaret's daughters, superb players, given great service to the club and county. You had Anne-Marie McMahon, Karina Rosengrave, Stephanie Taft, Bernie Mullins, Kieran Eilish Cullen, Siobhan Command, you know, all top class players. So what I would say to any club, you know, who is successful at senior level, you know, my advice would be is look after your youth, because they're going to be the future of the club coming through. So while for me 1999 was obviously the pinnacle of my club career and the other championships that followed, you know, it gave me great enjoyment to see the huge success that Kilnamona had at underage, you know, in those years as well.
I suppose you probably answered the question I was going to ask you. Was there any game with Kilnamona that passed you by, that you had the winning of it and you didn't realise it till the game was over? Basically, any tough defeat that hit you?
I remember we after one of the county championships, maybe it was 2007, maybe, we went down and we played St. Finbarrs of Cork. They were after winning their county final the week before, and we went out and did it go to extra time? We beat them anyway by a point on, no, I don't think we beat them anyway by a point of 8. So that was a huge success for us. And then we went down to play Cashel in the Munster final, and I suppose, you know, we were well beaten on the day, and it was kind of really disappointing because we had come so far and we had felt, you know, that we'd beaten the Cork champions, you know, that, you know, I thought at the time we'd be nearer to the Tip champions. Now, Cashel at the time had superb players, you know, the majority of them would have be playing for Tip as well at the time, but that was kind of a disappointment that day, you know, just that we just didn't click on the day, and you know, I thought we would be much nearer, than what we were. But listen, you take the wins and you take the losses, and sometimes you learn more from defeat than you do from winning as well.
And I suppose when you were with Fergus Rovers, again, 7 championships, an amazing tally to rack up. Was there any, if you can think of one that was sort of sticks out in your mind as being different from the rest, or were they all just good in their own way?
They were all just good in their own way. Like, I suppose I appreciated every one of them. I suppose the one thing it's probably is the All Ireland sevens. Winning that, we had got to semi-final maybe the year before, and maybe winning that maybe it's probably one of the highlights, as well as all the championship wins. We went up to Dublin. The team would have come up on the Friday evening. I'd have linked up with them, and we had some great matches in that. Like we had a superb 10 on the day. So and we loved going to the sevens. It's kind of a different game, but it brought out different strengths and different skills from people. So we loved going to that. But as I say, all of them are important to me. Mary Keane reminds me of us beating Clare. I think was it? God, I'm not sure the year, maybe 97. Back in it was on in Quilty. I think Marie Gallagher and myself were in Dublin at the time, and we had soccer matches on we had soccer competition on the Saturday in Dublin. So we travelled down on the Friday evening to play the match, and I think it was one of the best matches she says that she's played in. So I'm kind of remember back at the same match as well. But we came out on top. Clare had won the county championship. They'd beaten us the year before in the county championship win, and they'd gone on to win Munster honours and were a really, really good team at the time. We had great ding-dong battles. So that's one that has stood out in my memory since Mary reminded me of it. But as I say, we had great matches, and in Clare at the time, like Fergus Rovers were strong, Clare were strong, but then you had Newmarket coming through and they won a championship. Clare or Kilnamona came through and they won a championship. So we had great battles with various different teams in the club championship. And as I say, then we all got together for the county, and it was like everyone worked together and took it from there. I suppose with the county, then I was lucky enough, to be on the 2001, where we finally made the breakthrough in the Munster championship, beating Waterford, and with Dan Sheedy and John Fennell and Michael from Michael Neelan from Milltown training us at the time, and that was a really good breakthrough for Clare, and I think a lot took great heart from that. The same year we went on and to the All Ireland semi-final, and we were beaten by a Cora Staunton, as you mentioned earlier. She was with them at the time. We were beaten by them in the All Ireland semi-final, but the match was shown on TG Cahir, so it was a big breakthrough for ladies football at the time, and we had really good teams, and I think that brought football on another notch at that stage.
I suppose just another topic that you hit there is, I suppose, the 20 odd years that you played with Clare, very rarely did you get your picture on television. Now, with the great coverage that's been just with the national football leagues in ladies football, the Camogie championships, with the streaming of games, there's way more opportunity for female sport to get a foothold, outside the sponsorship, just to simply be recognised in the street for what you're doing. Yeah,
I think it's super, and it's great for the players. They become icons then for younger players who are coming up, who can see their stars on television, and there's so much media coverage. Like, I wouldn't like to be a PRO at the minute. Like, it's like a full-time job outside of your day job as well. But I suppose for people who are playing in it, there is definitely a lot more exposure, and it's great for, as I say, role models. You can see your role models on television and you can pick up from them. So it's great to see kids watching their stars on the television, and I think that's only a good thing. And I think the more of that we get for ladies, the more it can be it'll promote the game for us. I think when I was back when I won my first All Ireland in '86, I think there was a video of the match, and I think we nearly had to buy a video at home, a video recorder, to actually show the video, which just goes to show how far sport has come and how far ladies sport has come, which is brilliant for the game.
I'm going to finish off with a couple of questions for you. I know you're well prepared and you're very well scripted in everything you do. I'm just going to hit you with a few now. Your most difficult opponent on a football field, and you can name a couple. I won't be holding you to just one, just off the top of your head.
Inagh Morrissey probably marked her a bit around the middle of the field. She was so tall, a lot taller than me and stronger. So yeah, she would definitely have been a difficult opponent. I suppose the most skillful footballer, not going off your question, I always thought Magella Griffin was just naturally talented, left and right. I really admired her.
And
in general, I always, I take on any challenge, and I didn't really mind who I was marking. Actually, going out of the county, I suppose, I remember marking Breach Corkery below in Cork in a championship match, and God, like, she just ran everywhere. Like, she just didn't stop going. It just opened my eyes that day. I think I was wing back the same day and she was wing forward. I'd say I covered every blade of grass. I wouldn't have minded I had a record around me to see what steps I did during that match. But she was one that I remember having a tough day out with.
And we moved to Camogie. Like, you obviously had a lot of battles. Name a couple of very capable opponents you came across in the Camogie fields of Clare in your time.
I suppose at training, Noel Cummins was always tough to mark. Going on to the county, Debbie McDonough had a few good battles with her as well, particularly when she was playing for Wolf Tones as well. I suppose players that I admired, and going off your question again, like Mara McMahon from Shannon, Wolf Tones and Newmarket, I really admired her as a player. Deirdre Murphy had great heart and skill, and another tough player if you came across to mark her as well. But in general, every opponent is tough, and every opponent is different, and every opponent marks you differently. I suppose what I didn't like was somebody going out. I can tell that now because I'm finished playing, but I hated players coming out in front of me. Obviously I was a forward always, and I hated players coming out in front of me to mark me. I always preferred the player who stayed behind me because it was easier to get the ball and then take them on. But I can let that out now because I'm finished playing.
That's okay. And I suppose an interesting question. With Kilnamona, in your long career with Kilnamona, was there a club that you constantly came up against, or a club that got the best out of you in a positive way that when you were playing against them?
Probably in the when we won our first one, Wolf Tones would have been very strong, and they would have been coming off the back of winning a number of county championships at that time. So Wolf Tones in the beginning, and then we had great battles with Newmarket after that and Kilmaley. So they would probably have been the three clubs that we would have had. And some days we were beaten by them, and other days we beat them. But they would also have been ding dong battles. And at the time, a lot of the players on both panels would have been county players as well. So we'd have known each other really well, known our strengths, known our weaknesses. So we knew who to mark or who not to, who needed to be marked, who didn't need to be marked. And so there was great battles, with those teams. And if you look at the Roll of Honour going back over, my career span, those teams are the ones that are constantly at the top of it.
Yes, I suppose just in conclusion, if you were starting out again now, and you were the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 10-year-old going to training, what advice would you give to your kids or to any camogie player about if they asked you about your career and how you lasted so long?
Like the most important advice, I suppose, and I know a lot of managers say the same thing, but I firmly believe it is you have to practice the skills at home yourself. Like, you won't become a better player by going training for an hour and 15 minutes twice a week. So it's really to practice the skills at home. Anytime you can, just literally, even if you don't have somebody to hit the ball to you, go out, hit the ball off the wall, or kick the ball off the wall yourself if it's football you're playing for. And I suppose the most important thing is as well to enjoy it. You have to love what you're doing, and you don't have to become a success overnight. Just if you can't master something, keep trying at it. There's loads of evidence. I suppose I was lucky in that when I was 10, 11, 12, I got onto teams, but some people at that age don't make teams. So my advice for those is to keep practicing, because it's mind over matter as well. And if you really want something bad enough and you keep practicing hard enough for it, you will get to where you want to get to. So everyone develops at different times, and you might be small starting out, and then you might take a spurt at 17 or 18. I was only reading about Brian Fenton last night, where he didn't make the Dublin minor team. At that age he was small, and next thing he shot up, and suddenly you see he hasn't lost a senior champion match for Dublin. So everyone develops at different times, but so my big advice is practice and enjoy what you're doing, and listen to your coaches, and you'll get to where you want to get to with hard work. Hard work always succeeds over talent.
I suppose, Catherine, you're proof of that. I suppose a lot of players you played against, you probably put them quiet for a few days after. You probably got good performances out of them. Maybe they did that to you on that day too. Again, listen, thanks very much, Catherine, for talking to us. You give us a great insight into your life and times, and I suppose your family and where you're at now. And I suppose in times to come, we'll be looking at Ballyea teams and Clare teams. We'll be wondering, is there a bit of a Kilnamona style in that player? So we'll figure out where that came out of. So again, thanks very much, Catherine, for your chat, and hopefully we'll meet again someday when things get back to normal.
Great, thanks, Michael. Thank you.